Right now, New York City allows employers to ask job applicants about their criminal histories. On the application, you got to answer the question, but that's about to change because the City Council just passed overwhelmingly a ban to just that practice. It's a victory for the ban the box folks, if you will, the box referring to that question on applications. All right, Andrew, we've done a lot here, including with experts in the criminal justice system who can give chapter and verse how people upon getting out are basically barred from employment, not by law, but in all practical terms, once an employer sees a check mark in a box, that's where the interview in effect ends before it even begins. So I get the logic to it. You do your crime, if you do your time, you should be able to have a chance. But on the flip side, if you're an employer, by no means are you barred from doing your own criminal background check. But that does cost money and some won't do it. If you're employing somebody to be a bank teller, embezzlement, you're employing somebody to be in a certain capacity where they may have had even a violent record that wouldn't be conducive to something else, it opens up both an ethical question, but also I would think illegal from an exposure standpoint in terms of civil suits. God forbid somebody reoffends here, fellow employees or someone else to say, you should have done your due diligence, you put somebody in a position here where they've already offended in the past. Where do you fall?
Well, I think what's interesting is the way this bill works. It doesn't preclude that from happening. I mean, it just changes the timing at which point that can happen. You can't screen somebody out for checking the box because the box will be gone, but you can still run a criminal background check on somebody, and you can still reject somebody on the basis of what that criminal background check turns up.
I only say this, you're not required to do a criminal background check, and they also do cost money. Right. And for some companies, they can't afford to do that.
Well, but they're still doing, I mean, but you're talking about people who aren't doing it now. I mean, if somebody doesn't put a check mark, if somebody doesn't check the check, and they're supposed to have checked the check. Well, yeah, but the company has to figure it out, and most companies are going to do a background check to find out if they've incorrectly left that box unchecked.
The onus is now on the employer.
Well, yes, it is. You're assuming that anybody who would have checked the box would have been honest about checking the box going forward and would have been caught up in the system. The only way to be caught up in that system would be to have a background check that was done. But as I was saying, the companies can still do a background check. They can still reject you on the basis of that background check, but they have to actually sit down and explain to you, well, you have this history of embezzlement, you serve time for it, and this is a sensitive position where you have access to money, and they have to go through that process. Okay. What they can't do is just say, we're not even going to interview you because of that check.
That's fine. We are shifting the onus from the prospective employee to the employer now. You comfortable with that?
I guess so, because at the end of the day, we can play la-la land and act like employers are not going to do the background checks. But I would imagine in 9.5 out of 10 cases, no matter what you say on that form, because I know if I'm the employer, I'm going to do the background check.
Okay, Dominic, there's a bodega, okay, and the guy's looking for somebody to be a clerk, okay?
Okay.
And gives him the form to fill out, and now he doesn't have to say, I stuck up a bodega in the past, right?
I hate to say this, but I don't think they use forms at least not at most bodegas I knew growing up.
Thanks for playing along, Dominic. I appreciate it. You're the best.
The bodegas in Stamford, Connecticut are a different kind of bodega than the kind of way he grew up.
I'm sorry.
Let me explain what a bodega really is.
Oh my God.
A store, a community store. But so wait, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dom. I appreciate that.
I want to play along because I messed up the
B-O-D-E.
I messed up. Wait, Richard, I messed up your plot.
Dominic,
now
can I mention something? Shut up. All right, I want to head to Milwaukee here. And a controversy. Oh, shut up, because you're going to want to bitch about this. You've already done this on the Huffington Post here, so here's your opportunity. This had to do with a proposed new arena for the NBA's Bucks. Okay, the price tag. About $500 million here, and the governor, remember him, Scott Walker, he wants taxpayers to foot the bill for at least half of it, and that's why our own Mr. Brodsky is calling Walker our first socialist president. Yes, I will give you the softball. Why?
Well, first of all, being on HuffPost gives you an insight into the blogosphere, which is scary. That piece got 1,400 likes, but about 350 comments, and if you really want to open your bright baby blue eyes, read some of those comments, they're scary. That being said, once you decide to be the principal Ayn Rand capitalist, no welfare, screw the little people, all of a sudden you're finding $200 million of tax dollars for one of the richest, most successful industries that doesn't need the money, could afford to build its own stadium. When you put that up, the charge of hypocrisy, is easy. And
They can also afford to move to Seattle if they don't get the stadium in Milwaukee. They can also afford to move to some other town. This isn't like the Yankees or the Mets.
The economic data is absolutely clear. There is no economic development virtue to subsidize.
But isn't there a benefit beyond the economic value in having an NBA team in Milwaukee?
No, before you answer that, let me crystallize the question.
Which he's cutting $200 million.
I'm not arguing that point.
We all four agree on this, but I want to take Andrew's point and put it to a specific question. Do you believe that referendums, which we've seen in other part of the country, are totally fine to say we're going to raise the sales tax on X or whatever, or the public is going to put up Y amount of money? Let's say that exact same scenario. They put it to a public referendum. Would you be comfortable with that?
No.
Shouldn't the public decide if they want to lose the team to Seattle?
I'm not a big referendum guy because the guy with the biggest purse is the guy who's going to win the referendum on television.
The will of the people.
Look, in New York City, Mike Bloomberg, with George Pataki's help and David Patterson's help, put $10 billion tax dollars into Citi Field, Barclays Center, and Yankee Stadium. We can't fund the MTA. I mean, you're going to complain about Chris Christie? Well, let's have that same outrage for the guys who find that they're
they weren't in the form of blank checks, to be fair. They're in the form of bonds, right?
They were in the form of bonds paid off by tax revenue.
There's nothing wrong with a chief executive putting money towards or pushing to have public money go towards a stadium. His head is going to explode. But I disagree with that.
Well, no, here's my point. I get Richard's point, but put it to, instead of the governor deciding this unilaterally, put it to the public vote.
No, it's not up for referendum. It's bad enough when Scott Walker goes that way, but you?
Yes, and you know why? You know why? If you're the mayor of New York and I'm your chief of staff, oh God, and I'm your chief of staff, do you think we want to lose the Yankees to New Jersey?
It's a political issue, and it will cause. And if that's good enough reason to spend $200 million or $10 billion, then why don't we just do every expenditure?
And if you want to talk about funding the MTA. Politics. I think the three of us could sit down in 15 minutes and make that place functional, because right now you have so many fat cats at the MTA.
We're going
they all drive vehicles.
How about you?
It's a total waste of money.
Do you believe a referendum, it's the will of the people, and we can debate this till the cows come home, but for a lot of communities, imagine the Green Bay Packers for a second, okay?
Any team
it is the lifeblood of the community. And while we certainly can argue, hey, they should pay for their own stadium repairs, why should the public go in their pocket? And I agree with you. If the public's given the choice, go in your pocket to keep them here or you'll lose them to Seattle. You know what they're going to say.
But here's the problem. The owners can put that community over a barrel time and time again. And to get a better stadium, to get a better deal, to get fewer taxes, to get more, you know, whatever kickbacks. So at some point, this will just wind up being so unfairly balanced against the people that there would be too much power.
But that's a wrong question.
Why do they get the taxpayer money that no one else gets?
Well, here's my question.
What about the benefit they bring to the city?
Wait a minute.
Why not give the taxpayers a piece of the team?
Time out. There are deals to keep companies from relocating to different areas, whether it be tax abatements or whatever else, that aren't given to every other company.
$10 billion
Some people are more beautiful than others to
on
govern.
3 sports facilities beggars any other economic development giveaways that anyone's given.
I'd like to see the community own a piece of the team, and that way the team can't move.
Oh yeah, let's do
and
that.
Keep in mind that after they get this money, they charge $2,000.
I'm not defending the practice, but I'm always hearing the Mr. Public vote in here. We don't want to give the public the chance to vote. All right, coming up next, some head scratches that show just how screwed up the things are. Oh, the 3 of the folks from the streets here. All right, we're going to talk from some ridiculous comments straight ahead after this.